Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most highly profitable patterns um, that is out there on the charts to this day. We're going to be talking about the head and shoulders pattern. Now, this pattern is highly profitable, and actually, it's one of the most powerful patterns of all of the patterns in the market. All right, so we're going to get into it. And a lot of you guys want to know, what is the head and shoulders, and then how do you trade it to take advantage of the big move and make high and large profits. Okay, so we're going to get into it. So the head and shoulders, for the most part, is a reversal pattern that usually signals a move in the opposite direction. Now you can usually spot a head and shoulders by seeing an uptrend with an impulse move up or a disproportionately taller move up, followed by a similar move in the opposite direction. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to show you shortly. So, in essence, let's actually get right to it. So, in essence, okay, what you're going to see is something that favors the head and shoulders of a body like a human being, a person. All right. So you see here, you're gonna have a left shoulder followed by a head, which is the impulse move up, and then a move down. Then you're gonna get a right shoulder, and then you're gonna get a move down. That usually is signaling, a reversal in a uptrend. So basically, what you have here, to put it in simpler terms, um, you have an uptrend, right? A higher high, higher low, followed by a downtrend. That's basically all a head and shoulders pattern is. It's an uptrend followed by a downtrend. Okay, so how you would take advantage of this, okay, is once you have identified a head and shoulders on your chart. Okay, there's multiple ways of doing it, but I'm going to show you the simplest and most profitable and higher probability way of doing it to make a lot of money, and to get big moves in the market. Okay, so what you would do, as you can see, everything is labeled here. You have the left shoulder, the right shoulder, the head, and these are what we consider the neckline. Okay, which I will highlight that for you. Okay, these are the neck areas, and now those are the important points of entry. So I'm going to show you here, as you can actually see on the chart. I'm sorry, on the illustration here, that where you would take your entry, your sell entry, once you have realized a head and shoulders, you would take it at once it breaks the neckline, once it breaks under the neckline. You take your sell entry here, okay? Take your sell entry here, okay? And then you take it for the move down. This is a very powerful move, and I'm telling you now, once you look at this on your charts, you study it, back test it, you will see that you get an exponential amount of profits in an absorbently large move once you spot a head and shoulders in the break of a head and shoulders. Okay, so let me go into an example. All right, guys, so you got Airbnb. Okay, this is the daily chart. I'm gonna just be working with the daily chart, guys, but I will let you know that you can find the head and shoulders on all time frames, any and all time frames. Okay, you can find it on the daily, you can find it on the hourly, the 1 minute. But once you spot them, just know that it's usually going to be a pretty sizable move to come right after. All right, so let me hop into an example of how to use it. All right, this is on a live chart, guys, and I'm going to show you just how powerful this pattern is. Okay, so I don't know if you can spot it, but I'm going to give you a second to see if you can spot the head and shoulders on this chart. Give you a second, and then I'm going to let you see it. Okay, time's up. So if you didn't, and if you did, that's even great if you did find it. But here it is. Sorry, guys. Okay. Here it is, guys. The head and shoulders. And I'll illustrate it to you. Okay, so you have the left shoulder, the neckline, you have the head, you have the neckline, you have the right shoulder, and you have a completed head and shoulders. You would always know a head and shoulders based on the head being larger than both sides. You'll have two similarly identical sides, but they're not going to always be exactly identical. The two shoulders won't always be exactly across. Sometimes the left shoulder will be a little bit lower than the right. Sometimes the right will be a little lower. But the head, the middle, would always be higher than everything. Alright, so once you've spotted it, this is what I need you to do. I need for you to mark up the neckline. Okay, so the neckline is here. You would make a horizontal line that goes straight across from the neckline all the way to your right. Now you can draw this line out as far out right as you'd like, and it's going to be valid until it is broken. So if that were to happen here, or if it would happen way over here, this is going to be a powerful area. Alright, so now you see the head and shoulders, and you've marked up the right neckline. You made a horizontal line that goes across all the way to the right. Once this line is broken, this is a very powerful area in the market. And as you can see, what happened here, once Airbnb's price got to this level, it was a huge, and I mean a pretty sizable move down here. I'm talking $20 to $30 of movement down. Okay, let's go to the next example. You have Alibaba here. I'm going to give you guys a second to see if you can spot the head and shoulders pattern. Okay, time's up. Alright, so if you spotted it, that is great. You're already on the right path. And if you didn't, that's fine as well. I'm going to show you, and then now that you can see it and identify it here, that you can start to practice it on your own, and that way you can start identifying it naturally without much effort. Alright, so here it is if you didn't spot it. Okay, so you got the head. I'm gonna go ahead and mark this up for you. So you got the left shoulder, the neckline, you got the head, the neckline, the right shoulder, on down. Okay, this is your head and shoulders. So as I stated before, the way to capitalize on this, once you have identified a head and shoulders pattern, once you have seen the higher high and the impulse move up and a move down, similar impulse move down, and right shoulder down, once you realize that, you go ahead and you mark the right neckline with a horizontal line straight across here, like so. Alright, so as soon as you notice this point right here, and you see the price going up after you saw this impulse move and a move down, you mark this up. This is going to be very important when price gets back to it. And these are recent examples, guys. I mean, the day is, well, the date on this is the date on the overall chart is September 17, 21. Today is September 18th. Now this happened a little earlier. This actually happened like around November of 2020, but it's recent is what I'm trying to say. So this pattern works over and over and over, from near and far, from as recent as today to as far back as, however far back you want to go. So anyway, back to it. Once price gets to this level and breaks it, as you can see, it got to the level once, it rejected, but once it broke it, there's no coincidence, guys. The size of the move once the head and shoulders pattern got broken. There's no coincidence of why this gap down. Now, for starters, looking at the chart and not seeing any of this, you wouldn't know, why, why did this big gap down happen? But if you look at the chart and you see the head and shoulders, once it broke the right neckline, broke under the right neckline, it was off to the races, guys. And it's been going down ever since. Okay, guys, and that's why the head and shoulders is typically a reversal pattern. You see it happen at the top of the trend, and then from there it's been going down. Now, we'll note that the head and shoulders does not always have to happen at the top of the trend. It actually can happen in the middle of a trend. It can actually happen in a downtrend. Okay, guys, I want you to note that. So anytime you spot a head and shoulders pattern, you mark that up and you watch that right neckline for the right neckline break. Okay, guys. Now, I want to note that some head and shoulders, and like all patterns, pretty much all patterns in the market, none of them well, a lot of them won't be perfect. Okay, so what I mean by that is, if you look at the illustration here, you see a uneven neckline, okay, and an uneven shoulder level. All right, you see an up move, you see the neckline, you see the head, you see the neckline, you see the right shoulder, you see a down move. Okay, so now you see here the neckline is definitely not even. It's not straight across, as we've seen in the prior examples. All right, and like I said before, no pattern is usually going to be perfect 100% of the time. So you have to learn how to play it. All right, so in this example, how you would trade this, there's two ways. Well, there's many ways, but we're going to stick to the simplest forms here that will get you profit the easiest way. All right, the first being the normal way that we would trade it, which is the horizontal line straight across. The second way we would trade it is a trend line connecting the lower neckline to the right higher neckline, and allow the trend line to go all the way through. Okay, guys, so as you can see, you connect it to the bottom left neckline to the right neckline and let it go across. Once price breaks the trend line here, you take entry, a sell entry to the downside. Okay, give you an example. Alright, can you spot it? An uneven head and shoulders on this chart? I'll give you a second. Okay, time's up, guys. So I'm going to show it to you right here. Alright, this is an example of an uneven head and shoulders pattern, but still very profitable pattern. Okay, so as you can see, you have the shoulder, the left shoulder, the head, and you have a right shoulder. You see it here. I'm gonna actually mark it up for you. Alright, you got the left shoulder, you got the head, and you got the right shoulder. Alright, so how you trade this one, there's two ways. One, you can stick to the old rule of just, sorry about that, guys. You can stick to the old rule of making a, sorry about that, making a horizontal line straight across, Or if you want to be a little more aggressive, once you see an uneven head and shoulders with the right shoulder being, sorry, with the right neckline being higher than the left, you go ahead and draw a trend line like so, from the left neckline to the right neckline. Okay, and once it breaks under that, it's off to the races. This is no coincidence, guys. You can see the shoulder, the head, the right shoulder on down. Once it broke the trend line, you're off to the races. A lot of profit there, and this is on Apple, by the way, a very highly traded and profitable and a popular stock. Yeah, so this you can go and see this on the chart yourself for reference. But it's no coincidence that once it got to this area, it made a huge move. Okay, guys, so this is how you profitably take the head and shoulders. It's just that simple. So let's get on to the next one. Now you also have what's the opposite of the head and shoulders, which is called the inverted or inverse head and shoulders pattern. It's basically the same thing as the head and shoulders, but in reverse, to the opposite side. You typically have these at the end of a downtrend, and it usually signals a reversal and a move back up to begin a uptrend. But you can also, as stated before, you can have this happen anywhere in the chart, guys, and I'm going to show you an example. But the same thing applies. You have the left shoulder, you have a neckline, you have a head that goes makes an end post move down. It breaks the left shoulder, and it makes a similar end post move up, comes down, makes a right shoulder, and then it's off to the races up. Now your buy entry on an inverse head and shoulders would be the break of the right neckline for the move up. I'm going to give you guys one example of that, and you should be good to go. Alright, actually, this is the chart, the daily chart of Facebook. Now I'm going to show you something interesting here, and what I meant by the patterns can happen anywhere in the chart. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to see, first of all, can you spot the inverse and the inverted head and shoulders? I'm going to give you 2 seconds. Okay, alrighty, so I'm gonna actually show you that with Facebook here. It actually has multiple inverse head and shoulders. Alright, so I'm gonna point out 3 that's pretty obvious, or I wouldn't necessarily say obvious, but the most powerful, and I'm gonna point them out to you now. Okay, like I said, there's multiple inverse head and shoulders patterns on this chart. I'm going to start out with the most notable ones. You got one here, you got one here, you got one here, and you got the big large one here. Okay, and I'm going to mark them up for you so you can see what's going on here with them. So you got the left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, right shoulder, up. And as I said before, and how to trade it, once you see that you'll always know the head and shoulders is when the middle down move is substantially larger than the 2 shoulders. It dips way below, or a decent amount below the shoulders, and then the way to trade it is at this right neckline, you would make a horizontal line the moment that you realize that it was a inverse head and shoulders, and you take the break. Guys, this is not a coincidence. Now a lot of times I have noticed a lot of technical analysis moves happen in correlation with news or with fundamental news or for fundamental events. So I'm not sure if there's news. Well, actually, you can see here earnings was at this point, but it's not a coincidence. Look how it matched the Head and Shoulders, the inverse Head and Shoulders. But anyway, we're not going to get into the fundamentals, but just look at the Head and Shoulders. If you took the break, huge gap up. Okay, so we're going to look at another one. Okay, you got the left shoulder, the head, necklines, right shoulder. Now, had you marked up your horizontal line? As soon as it broke, you had a sizable move up here. This was easily $10 to $20 in upward movement. Okay, you get the idea. I can do it for this one as well. And let's just do the big one. This is the big one here. I mean, this stands out over everything. So you got the left shoulder, you got the head, you got the right shoulder, you got the neckline. You would make a horizontal line to the right, and once it breaks it, as you see, it's off to the races. And this is on Facebook, and this happened, this actually was during the COVID-19 pandemic start back in March of 2020. But it's no coincidence, man. You see the Head and Shoulders here, and ever since it broke this neckline, it's been off to the races. So guys, that concludes this video on how to be profitable. All you have to do is take those breakouts. If you're doing a Head and Shoulders, you take the break of the right neckline for a sell going downward. If you're taking the inverse Head and Shoulders, which are these patterns, the opposite of the Head and Shoulders, you take the breakout of the right neckline, but you take a buy. That, ladies and gentlemen, will profit you majorly. If you stick to that formula and you stick to that pattern, you will grow your account exponentially. I'm talking from $1,000 to over $100,000 or more. Just stick to it, guys. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope it helped. If you liked the content, please just hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more information like this. I'm gonna be posting many more to help you guys become profitable traders and consistently profitable traders. Until next time.